All right, so we'll go ahead and start the recording. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully we'll start in about a minute. All right, so Angela, do you have children of young school age children or older school age children or?
I have two. I have a 13-year-old boy and a 7-year-old girl. So both.
Okay. Well, hopefully this will be very helpful to you. And we are going to record this and we're going to place it on our YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to see it later, Nicole will post it on all our social media and as well as hers. And then that way, anybody who wants to see it can see it later.
Okay.
We'll give them about 1 more minute and then we'll start.
Oops. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, I just saw it. I'm going to mute myself unless you talk to me. That way,
perfect.
I think that'll be helpful.
Yeah, and then Nicole has started the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to introduce yourself, put in your questions into the chat. And what we'll do at the end of the presentation, we'll open up for questions and we will also, be happy to let anybody who wants to introduce themselves. We have about an hour, so my presentation should take a little over half of that time. And then that way we can have some time to actually ask questions.
You'll have to excuse the sirens in my background every once in a while. We live across the street from the ER.
Oh no. Yeah, so Nicole, if you could place a little note in the chat for everyone to mute themselves when they come in. That way we're not interrupted. So let's go ahead and get started. It sounds like a lot of times I get people who just kind of come in as we're getting started, and that's okay. What we'll do is we'll post this up on our YouTube channel and anyone who wants to listen to it later can do so. So today we're going to talk about executive function skills and how they manifest in everyday life. Executive function skills are interesting, and the basic premise of executive function skills is that they're housed in the frontal lobe. So what makes this important when we're talking about executive function skills is that the brain develops from the back, which is this part, moving forward. So starting here and moving to the front of the brain. And it also develops from the center, the very center of the brain, moving outward. So making the frontal lobe the last part of the brain to fully develop. Most people's brains do not develop to their late 20s. Mid to late 20s is when they're fully developed. So keep that in mind when we're talking about executive functioning skills. And from my perspective, executive functioning skills are an interesting topic because you could talk to 15 or 20 different doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and they would all give you a slightly different definition of what executive functioning skills are. So what I did is I created this little graphic showing you that executive functioning skills are a rather large umbrella where we house a variety of skill sets. So in that frontal lobe, you have the ability to manage your time better. That's where we house our memory, organization, attention, our metacognition, which is our ability to think about our thinking and how we're thinking. Task initiation, this is where procrastination falls under. Prioritization, putting things off. It's like, well, I don't really need to do that today. I can hold off till tomorrow. Or planning, and that includes long-term and short-term planning. Inhibition, a lot of kids who have maybe ADHD or their frontal lobe is just not fully developed, they have inhibition problems or challenges. And then we have cognitive flexibility, which is about organizing your thoughts and maybe processing speed. And then self-regulation and affect, which pretty much impacts our social circle. A lot of kids who have issues with social relationships might have some self-regulation or affect issues. So that being said, let's talk a little bit about a few things that you should know about when we talk about executive functioning skills. So the first one is we're not born with them. They are absolutely learned. When we talk about executive functioning skills, or at least when I see people in my office, and by office, I mean online, I no longer have an office. They come in, parents will bring their children in and they'll say, oh, my child has a difficulty with X, Y, and Z. And then I notice, and then the next step is, well, I also have those issues. So they almost think like it's hereditary, but it's really not. The part where their executive functioning skills are not developed might be hereditary, but executive functioning skills are learned. So if a parent doesn't know them, how can a child? Your child is learning those skills from you. So if, when they're little, you teach them how to brush their teeth, you teach them how to wash their clothes when they're a little bit older. They also learn how to manage their time, how to organize their space, how to have social interactions. All of those things that are executive functioning skills are learned, and we learn them from our parents, but the ability to learn them is dependent on the fact that our brains are developed enough to actually do those things. They also help us regulate our behavior, allow us to organize our behavior over time, and this basically reduces the impulsivity and helps us focus on short-term or long-term goals. And they're different than our cognitive abilities. So a lot of times when people come to me, they might say, well, my child thinks very slowly. And then they try to defend them by saying, well, they're not slow. They're actually very smart, but they just don't think very fast. That's what they're talking about. It has nothing to do with their intelligence. It has to do with the fact that they're not thinking very quickly. So that could be their processing speed. It could be their inability to regulate their behavior. It could be so many different things, but executive functioning skills really do not determine how intelligent a child or an adult is. So when I work with students, and I work with adults as well, but when I work with students, when a parent comes to me, this is one of the most comprehensive lists that I could put together about the most common things that I hear. The first thing parents come to me and say, well, my child doesn't have, self-esteem. They don't feel very good about themselves. They have poor confidence. They're not very good at, or they don't feel good about the things that they can do. And their grades are dropping. This is the big thing that I get is my child's grades are dropping. They used to be an A student and now they're not. So as a consequence, maybe that child is not finishing their homework in class, whereas at one time they were finishing it. They're not writing down their homework. They're not using a calendar. Maybe they do their homework, but they don't turn it in, or they just don't do it at all. Or when they turn it, or they don't turn it in because it's partially done, or they have trouble paying attention in class. They can't focus. They're easily distracted. Maybe they're having difficulty finding their homework because it's on a desk that's really messy, or their backpack is really messy. A lot of times I'll see kids, when I used to see kids in my office, I would see their backpack. And when you would start to unpack their backpack, it was loose papers and gum wrappers and money and, food from last year and just all kinds of garbage in their bag because they really didn't clean it out. And so to them, the backpack was just a mode of transportation, transporting their papers from home to school and back, and back. And so they didn't really see this need to clean it out, or they didn't want to take the time to clean it out. A lot of times students are late because of this. They're always looking for something. They're room is a mess, their desk is a mess, their work area is a mess. A lot of times kids work at the dining table. And so they leave a mess behind, and then the family can't eat dinner there. And so that interrupts family time. And so it becomes this issue that starts to impact other people in the family as well. And that's really when most parents notice there's a problem, and they call me. So they're not only just having difficulty at school, but it starts to impact their family life and their home life as well. Let's see if I can go. So I had some recommendations that I wanted to talk about today. And before we get started, I want to show you a picture of my kids. Now, these are my daughters. This picture is a little bit old. The one on the left is my daughter, Emily. The one on the right is my daughter, Elsa. And this is in 2019. So both my daughters graduated. My younger one graduated from high school, and my older one graduated from college. And this picture was taken up at Colorado State University, right by Colorado State University, where my older one graduated from college. And the reason why I show this picture is because both my girls had some challenges in life. My older one had, both of my girls were preemies. My older one had a lot of executive functioning challenges. When I would call her in her dorm, I mean, she had to like climb over things to answer the phone. When she lived at home, under her bed was a mess. I remember one year we were moving, and she swore that she turned in the books for school. And after we cleaned out her room, there they were underneath her bed. She couldn't find them. She was always losing things. Her room was a disaster, but yet she could hold it together enough. She could hold all this information in her head well enough that she graduated early. She graduated with a full scholarship, and she got into medical school at the age of 20, and she is getting ready to graduate in May of this year from medical school. So executive functioning skills can be very debilitating if they're not worked on, if they're not something that you can get under control. But she was able to work on them. She was able to pull things together so she can manage her time better. Does she still have challenges? Yes. Are they better? Absolutely. My younger daughter, Elsa, she didn't really have a lot of challenges with executive functioning, but she also, had to deal with Emily's challenges. But yet both my girls had full scholarships, both, did very well in school. And the point that I'm trying to make is that even with executive function challenges, your child can be a great success. So ways to support your child with executive function skill deficiencies. From my personal experience, as well as my professional experience, I think patience is the most important thing. As a parent, you have to be patient. Know that your child is developing, that they are exactly the way they're meant to be, but they have some skills that still need to be worked on. And because they're children, they're going to have things that they're going to work on. So as our job as a parent is to support them. Our job as a parent is to make sure that they have the support in place. And we have to do this with patience. We have to know that it's going to take them some time to gain all the skills that we need them to have. Oops. Time management is another one that a lot of students struggle with. Schools are doing a much better job, at least public schools are doing a much better job of helping kids with time management. They give them an agenda book. They have them write their homework in that agenda book. Some IEPs and 504 plans have, certain things in place for each student, customized to that student so that they can better manage their time. But this is something as a parent that you can really help them with, kind of set the stage for them every morning. Tell them, it's like, okay, here's all the things that we have to do today. Here's how long everything takes, so that they have an idea of how long things take. Each class is an hour, for example, or you're in school for 7 hours a day, or we're going to go to dinner and that will be about an hour to an hour and a half. So if they can get a good idea of how much time they're using in a day, or when they're doing their homework. Well, this assignment should only take you 10 minutes. Let's put a timer on to see if it actually does take you 10 minutes, to help them gauge how much time is actually going by, how much time something should actually take. So this is a really easy thing that parents can do to help their children better manage their time. Organization is probably the hardest, I think, out of everything that a parent has to do to help their children, because we're busy, we're running around trying to do our own thing, and then you look at your kid's room and it's a mess. And it really should look similar to this, you know, books should be in a bookshelf, toys should be on their own space. And I know that no child's room looks this spick and span every single day, but what I'm saying is that we need to aspire to helping our children with the idea of putting things away after we use them, having a place for everything, and then putting those things in their place. That simple old adage of have a place for everything and put everything in its place, there's a reason for that. So if you have adequate storage, if you have adequate bookshelves, then your child knows where to put those things. So keep that in mind as you're teaching your child to develop those skills. And those skills are lifelong. Those are not just during school. Those are not just during summer. Those are lifelong skills that you're teaching them. Self-care. This is a really important way of supporting your children. I'm a big advocate of self-care. I think you have to teach your children, if they need to take a time out, take a time out. If they need time to relax, take that time to relax. If you need a vacation as a family, go take one. Relaxation, taking time for each other, all of these things that are self-care, they're very important. You know, if your self-care is meditation for 10 minutes every day, by all means, make that a priority and fit that into your schedule. If you like to take a spa day once a month and go get a massage and a manicure and a pedicure, and you can fit that into your budget, by all means, you should do that. Personally, I'm a big advocate of self-care. I had somebody years ago tell me, actually, they told my ex-husband while we were still married, they said, if anybody knows how to take care of themselves, it's Fazia. Well, not only could I do this for myself, but I was modeling that behavior for my children. So now when my daughter is having a stressful day, she'll go schedule a massage, or she'll go schedule a day where she gets her nails done, and just take that time out so that you can decompress, regroup, and then tackle whatever you need to tackle with a clear mind. Which leads us to the next section. Situational anxiety is something that has to be managed. If it's not managed properly, it can really eat away at your day. And this is something that I strongly recommend meditation. If you need to meditate daily, I've recommended meditation for some of my clients up to twice a day, 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening. And I can tell you that every time I've recommended this, it's been very helpful. You can also use hypnotherapy. I've had tremendous success with hypnotherapy in reducing anxiety. So meditation, relaxation techniques like breathing techniques, all of these things can help reduce situational anxiety and help bring your child to a place of calmness, and so that they can handle whatever's coming their way. And you're teaching them really good coping skills when you're doing this. The most important thing of all is to model best practices. We need to remember that executive functioning skills are learned, and your child watches everything that you do. So you have to model the behaviors you want your child to have. If you want your child to be really good at taking time out and being able to reassess what's going on and have really good coping skills, then you have to teach them how to do that by modeling it. If you want your child to put everything away, you have to model that. If you're like me, I leave my shoes everywhere. I'll be honest, I leave my shoes everywhere. And I'm always wearing a different pair of shoes, and I swear none of them are in my closet, because I have a habit of, the minute I sit down, my shoes come off. And then when I get back up, I leave them where they are. I promise you, there's 2 pairs of shoes under my desk. There's probably another pair in the hallway. And my kids do the same thing. They don't put their shoes away. And I can't say anything about it because that's what I do. So if you want your kids to put your shoes away, you have to put your shoes away also. So that being said, that's my big confession for today. I recently started offering Mindprint assessments. And if you go to Mindprint's website, you can get the Mindprint assessment for $199, which is what I offer it at. But what I have is an additional value of a 45-minute review of that assessment that I offer. And it is the only K through 12 cognitive assessment to identify students' strengths and provide strategies personalized to that student's needs. And Nicole actually had her lovely daughter take the assessment, and we do have a sample of that assessment that we can allow you to take a look at. So if that's something that you're interested in, this Mindprint assessment gives you a path that you can follow for your child's education. So it assesses their strengths, and it assesses the areas where you can help support them further. It tells you which areas there may be in the average range, high range, or in the low ranges. And you have basically a roadmap once you get this assessment to develop a program or a strategy that's going to help improve the areas that they need improvement on. And I can't tell you enough how much I value this assessment. For older children, we also have the ability to predict how they're going to do on ACT or SAT tests. This is invaluable. So if you have a child who you think this would be beneficial to, let me know. I'd be happy to do that consultation. The intro price is not going to last forever. We will be changing that probably within the next few weeks, but for right now, for $199, you'll get that 45-minute assessment review as well as the assessment. And if you are interested in radio, I do have Focus on Success Radio, which is on voiceamerica.com's empowerment channel every Wednesday at 9 a.m. And you are welcome to listen in live. We have a variety of professionals and experts that come in and talk about different ways that we can all help our students become more successful, or we can help ourselves become more successful as adults. So this is a really awesome way of me giving back to my community. You can go back and listen to the podcast, and you can listen to that. It is a syndicated program, so you can listen to it anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you just look up my name or Focus on Success, you will find it. But just in case you don't, it's also on my website. The magazine is something we launched this year, and we are creating our 4th issue. It's a quarterly magazine. Our 4th issue is coming out in October. October 10th is when we launched that last the last volume for this year. And so we're really excited about this. So if this is something you'd like to subscribe to, I'll show you the link to, you can go to take care of that as well. But we have lots of articles, we have ads, all pertaining to executive. All the articles are somehow related to executive function or ways that you can find success in your life. So I would want you to definitely go to our website, and you can take a look at that. Oops. So here's my contact information. If you are interested in going to my website, here's the website address. It's executivefunctioncoachaz.com. And you can subscribe to our magazine there. You can listen to the podcast. You can go to our YouTube channel there. So everything is in one place for right now. At some point in the near future, we'll be splitting up the media company and the coaching company, but for right now, everything's in one place. So I just want to open it up to questions at this point. Any questions? Angela, would you be interested in seeing the Mindprint assessment?
I hit the wrong button. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I had no idea what I was looking at, what this was gonna, well, I know what executive function is. And I know that both of my children struggle with it. So I was listening for just ways that I can help them. We have a calendar, we have a planner. I don't know. I mean, it can be really frustrating helping them keep themselves straight. I worry about their plans and their schedules and their lists and what they've done to the point that I, a lot of times, don't get to mine.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I feel
and
like
that's
at
a
least
really
I'm teaching.
Yeah, that's a really common thing. A lot of parents run into that. Let me just show you the mind print assessment and what it looks like. So this is Alice's mind print assessment. So she took hers this morning. And what it did is it looked at a variety of different areas. So her biggest strengths, it identified them as flexible thinking, working memory, and abstract reasoning. So if we want to look at the full assessment, we can go here, and it kind of breaks it down into all these categories. So you can definitely look at all the different categories, but it also has a visual component. So Alice definitely is extremely strong in her ability to perform in flexible thinking. And you can see right here, she's ahead of her here. She's in the top 16th percentile for her group, for her age group. Right here is Alice's areas where she really didn't do so well, areas that she needs support. So some of these areas are in the bottom 5%. So attention, processing speed, and visual motor speed. So we also know that Alice might possibly have an eye tracking issue, which could potentially impact one of those. So the beautiful part about this is even though Alice has 6 things under her area of skills to support, we know what she needs support in. And what's nice about this assessment is you can go into, let's see, visual motor speed. Let's see, here we go. Let's go into attention. So it goes into attention, and you will get access to this report. So if you wanted to purchase this, and then her mom, Nicole, can actually look and say, okay, here's the skill that needs supporting, and here's some ways that we can help her. And so it really helps identify the different areas. So you essentially have a roadmap for whatever issue your child might be working on. All of these issues are just listed right here. And if you're not sure how to share this information with your child, it explains that as well. If your child has anxiety, it talks a little bit about what that might mean for you as a parent and how you can maybe change some things around. So, but my favorite thing is this summary where you can just at a glance, you can say, okay, there's nothing that she got in the low range. Her spatial perception is in the average or medium range, which is totally normal. But her working memory and abstract reasoning is in the high end, and her biggest strength is flexible thinking. So she's actually got some really good strengths working for her. But considering that she's still young, this is okay. We just know exactly what she needs to work on now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how would you work on those things?
So let's see, visual motor speed. So let's pull that up. So visual motor speed. It actually gives tips. Let me find that area. Hold on one second. There is another section that gives recommendations on how you can actually work on each one of those. There are areas that the mind print assessment does not cover. It only covers certain executive function areas like flexible thinking and working memory and attention. And well, processing speed as well. But for the most part, if they had additional needs with executive functioning like time management or organization. Those are the things that you would need to work on yourself, or you would come to somebody like me to help them with that.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So what if these don't help with time or with these things, what they just help you to be a successful learner?
Yeah, so it has a mix of executive function in it. So it does help with some executive function skills. Like when I work with students, I work a lot on processing speed, attention, and working memory and flexible thinking as well. These are very important to school success. But I also work in additional areas with like things that they really don't measure here, like time management or organization or focus. So there's a lot of things that are not on here that you would have to work on. So if that was the case, then I would recommend actual coaching. If your child had additional areas that they needed support in. But if you took this assessment and your child did well in areas that maybe you didn't think they would do well in, or maybe it just helps you get a nice baseline of what their needs are. Some parents don't want to spend the money to get a neuropsych eval, or they don't have the money for any kind of psych eval at all. So this might be a nice alternative to kind of get an idea of exactly what kind of things their child needs, or what their areas of improvement might be, or where their areas of success are, their strengths are, so that they have a better idea of what they need to do moving forward. So it's just a different assessment, if that makes sense.
For me,
Yeah.
I feel like it was beneficial for me to see, because there were some things that I had suspicions about as a homeschool mom, like the processing speed. I know that she doesn't process things quickly. It kind of helped me put a name to some things that I was seeing. The visual motor speed, I know she has a tracking problem. In speaking with Fazia, sometimes what you think as dyslexia can actually just be a tracking problem. Alice has a lazy eye, and she's also extremely nearsighted, plus astigmatism. So like she has visual problems as well that contribute to her tracking issues. And then attention, and as we went through the assessment, there's one part specifically that says something about where the child will tune in and tune out. And that is a contributing factor to why that comes up under the attention part. And that's my Alice. Like if anybody knows my Alice, 1 minute she's present and she may be present in body the whole time.
Yeah.
But the next minute I'm like, oh, hey, we're still
Right.
doing this right here.
Right.
So
Right.
it really helped kind of put a name to some of the things that I've been seeing. And as Fazia said, having the neuropsych evals and things like that, it gets pricey. And as a single homeschool mom, it's hard to afford those kind of things. And to be able to have an option like this to put a name to things that I'm seeing is hugely beneficial for me. And gives me an idea of what we need to work on to help her improve, rather than just kind of a shot in the dark trying to figure out, I think this is the issue, I think this might be the issue.
Right. Well, my kid, academically, Landon and Mia, they seem fine. It's if I put the work in front of them and keep them focused, they're okay. But if I say, all right, Mia, go to your room and get your shoes and your jacket, guaranteed she's going to come back with one of the two items.
Yes.
If she doesn't, like she's ran into, and my son can be the same way. He's better. He's 13. Landon's on the autism spectrum, and Mia has ADHD. Landon has gotten a lot better. His anxiety is better. His social skills are somewhat better. He has a hard time approaching kids his age, but the biggest thing that we work on is helping them to organize themselves. Like I finally, for Landon, with his school stuff, I just wrote a schedule down for him because he couldn't, even if I gave him a list of the expectation for the day, he couldn't organize himself in a way to get that stuff done. And then that's why I'm homeschooling him, is
Right.
because I know that at school they're not going to work on those things. And he's super smart. He has the best memory, visual memory or auditory, I don't know, but like he can do math really good in his head. And he has a great memory. And so he didn't, in school, when they would have him write his stuff down in his agenda, he was like, I don't have to, because I know what my homework is. But so his teaching, it's just that I'm keeping him
Yeah.
home because I know that he needs to learn those things.
What a lot of kids don't realize, when the teacher's trying to get them to write things down, it's not about them remembering their homework. That's a skill that's lifelong. So, and that's what I tell my students, like, I'm sure you can remember everything you have to do for school. Like, I have no doubt that you can do that. But this is a skill set that you're trying to use. You're practicing it now, because when you get to high school or when you get to college, you're going to need it. My daughter relied heavily on her memory all through high school. And when she got to college, she called me up one day and she said, I didn't listen to you. I didn't use my calendar, and I didn't study, and I didn't do any of the things you told me to do. And now I don't know how to study. Now I don't know how to get through. So all the things that we were trying to teach her in high school, she didn't do because she didn't need it. She relied on her memory, and it was great.
Yes.
But in college, it was like, oh my God, I can't remember all this stuff. And all this stuff is more complex, and I have to actually study. So it was a crash course, and here's how you study.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I get that quite a bit. I have a student right now who, he got into an Ivy League school, and he was not successful. He's on the spectrum. He went to the Ivy League school for about a year, did not do well. He went back to a state school, and now he and I are working together. And at first, he kind of snubbed his nose up at some of the things I was teaching him because he thought they were too simple. And I had to remind him, it's the simple things that are going to get you through what you need to do. Like, you can do calculus in your head, but you can't organize your time. Like, you have to be able to organize your time.
Right. It's about doing those little things day in, day out, day over, and that adds up. Yes, it feels good to hear someone else saying it though. But
absolutely. So I decided to do this mind print assessment to offer it to my clients because I really think it's a very valuable tool to have. If nothing else, it confirms what you already know, which is a really good thing. But at best, it shows you the areas of support that you need to offer your child so that they are getting what they need. And you have to remind them they're a work in progress. They're not going to have all strengths.
Right.
Most kids don't. Most kids are going to have kind of a mix because they're a work in progress, because they're still learning.
Right. Well, and like you said, we're saying about teaching them different things that you can do to help like setting a timer. If you know that focus, that you can lose focus, if you know you only have to focus for 10 minutes and then you're done, that's a really powerful thing to teach someone to be able to do that struggles to focus.
Right. A lot of students don't know how long it takes them to do homework. So one of the things at least when they used to get paper homework, I would have them write down the due date when they got it. So you get this math homework, you say, okay, due Thursday, and take a look at it and just do a ballpark. How long do you think it'll take me to do this homework? Okay, 30 minutes. Great. I got it. 30 minutes, due Thursday. I will put that on my calendar for tomorrow. And that's very powerful. But for a student who can't manage their time, they don't know how long that's going to take them. It's overwhelming. They don't know when it's really Thursday sounds so far away, Yeah. And it could be today, tomorrow, but it still sounds so far away. And
it's not today.
Right.
It's not today.
Right. So
That's my Alice. And the setting a timer is still a struggle, because realizing that time management, even though there's a timer set, we're off over here and
Yeah.
focus where we need to be.
So for kids, like
Yes.
when I work with kids who have ADHD, and that's a very ADHD type behavior, but it doesn't mean she has ADHD. It just means she has an
Right.
attention issue. So when I work with that type of attention issue, I really work on improving processing speed and flexible thinking. So because if they can think faster and they can organize their thoughts fast and quickly and accurately, they're more likely to get their work done quickly, so that when that attention span wanders off, it's okay because they got most of it done or all of it done.
Right.
So it improves their likelihood of finishing things.
The coaching, do you do like an evaluation prior to coaching, or is this the evaluation you do prior to?
I do two things. I use this assessment, and then I also have a checklist that I've created of all the categories that I think are the most common categories that I see. And then it's probably about a 5 to 7 page checklist, depending on what font I use. And it covers time management, organization, prioritization, task initiation, social skills, memory, pretty much everything that we talked about earlier. And so I get a really good sense of what their challenges are, and that is self-reported by the student as well as by the parents. I get two perspectives. I hope that the two match, but they don't always match. Sometimes the student doesn't think they have any issues and the parent checks off everything.
Mm-hmm.
That gets a little challenging, but for the most part, when I work with students, I start off with this and the checklist, and then what they feel is their top, issue that they want to work on. And then we start addressing those issues, and I make some recommendations, and I see clients mostly once or twice a week. And I recommend that they see me from the beginning of a semester to the end of a semester, at least one full semester. That way they can I can help monitor everything that's going on. I can help them with short-term and long-term projects. I can help them, with time management, organization. I can help them with their processing speed, flexible thinking. Anything that they need help with is what we work on during that time.
What age group do you work with?
Yeah, I work with ages 8 and up. So I work with kids as well as adults. I actually get a lot of adults that come to me either from my traumatic brain injuries or ADHD, or I even get adults on the spectrum that will come to me and say, hey, I really wish I had executive function coaching when I was younger, because now I'm having trouble keeping a job, or I can keep the job, but I struggle with it. And, I'm not getting promotions. I'm not doing any better than I was last year. So it's really an interesting dynamic for adults. A lot of them wish they had the coaching when they were younger. And a lot of parents will come to me and say, well, everything you're telling them, I told them already. I said, the difference is you're their mom.
Yeah.
Really that simple. I could not tell my kids how to do things. They had to hear it from someone else also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell this funny story. When my daughter was 3, we used to live in Prescott, Arizona, and we were coming down to Phoenix to visit my parents, and it was nighttime. And, oh no, before that, we were coming down during the day. It was during the day. And she's like, Mom, and she's asked me all these questions. She's like, you're so smart. How do you know everything? And, I'm like, all proud. I'm like, yeah, I feel good. I feel like I know something. And then, we make the drive back up that night, and she's asking me how the universe works and how the earth stays on axis. She's 3, and how the earth stays on its axis, and how the sun and everything stays where it's at. Like, why doesn't it go everywhere else? And I honestly, I couldn't answer the question. And I said, I honestly don't know. I said, but what we can do is we can go home and we can look it up. And she's like, Mom, how come you don't know anything? And so I went from brilliant to not so smart in like
Sounds
a
like my
day.
7-year-old. Yeah.
And,
She couldn't
and
find her Kindle.
yeah,
You mean I'm never going to be able to play with my Kindle ever again?
yeah. So that's what happens to us as parents is we go from genius to not very smart very quickly. All we have to say is,
Yes.
I don't know, one time and we're done.
Mhm.
And so when kids have challenges, they're like, I don't want to ask my mom. She doesn't know anything, and the
Right.
reality is they know us really well. The reality
Yeah,
is
she's
our
going to
kids
make me
know
make
it.
a list. I know it. I don't want to write.
Yeah, the reality is our kids know us really well and they can manipulate it and they know how to push our buttons, and so it's much better and easier for everyone if they just go to someone else and get that taken care of, which is, in my opinion, why I sent my kids to school, because I tried homeschooling. It was a lot harder than I thought.
It is not. I was talking to my friend. She said, how, you homeschooling this year? Yes. How is it? And I said, it is the best, worst thing I've ever done. I'm
Absolutely.
so glad I did it. And it's so rewarding. But at the same time, it is so draining. And it just takes so much of you to give. But I'm so glad I wouldn't have it another way. But yeah, you're agreeing. Absolutely. It is. It's the best, worst thing. So I'm thinking of my son that this would be helpful for him. And I mean, if you can help him follow his list, I mean, today he's begging me for Fridays, we always do pizza, and he's begging me for 30 extra minutes because he's not going to have time to get all of his things done. And I told him, that's the new thing. If you don't get your stuff done on Friday, we're not having pizza. Because we were doing school every day until like 5 o'clock when we first got started back. And so I just had to draw a line. So I did give him 30 extra minutes. And I said, well, it kind of helps me because he and his sister were going to do an activity that was really loud. And so I said, really, it helps me if you work on your chores for 30 more minutes anyways, because then then I'll have my extra time to listen to this before it gets really noisy. But it's just, I mean, if other than that, he does great. I mean, I give him his stuff to write, or, I mean, if once he sits down to do it, he's fine. But he just has a hard time organizing himself.
Well, if you'd like to give me a call, we can have a conversation and you can tell me more in depth what the issues are. And then I can tell you what I can and cannot help you on.
Okay. That sounds really good.
Yeah. My number is 480-648-1122.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait a minute. Can you give me that?
480-707. No, 480-648-1122. I was going to give you my personal number, but it's better if you call the business number. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you. And yeah, thanks for putting the number on there, Nicole. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was going to give you my personal number, and I really don't want to put that on recorded number on the recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Nicole, for putting this together. Hopefully we'll do this again. And maybe if you had some specific questions or some specific topics, if there's something that you'd like to hear about, we'd love to know the topic, and then we can have that as our next recording.
Okay. My family and I, we live in Bartram Springs, which is in South Jacksonville, and we are in the process of moving to West Jacksonville, like off of Chafee Road. So I would say it will probably be October before my mind is before we're able to handle anything else besides just getting moved and the commitments that we already have. But
Absolutely.
I see Nicole and I've saved the information. So if I don't see Nicole, I see Alice once a week.
Oh, good,
At
good.
our homeschool co-op. So I know that and we're Facebook friends now too. So I know I can get in touch with you but I'm not gonna be calling you in the near future just because I almost didn't even get on this call because I was so busy trying to get stuff done, but I made myself stop because I know we need help with this area. So I'm glad I did.
Well, absolutely, Angela, and I thank you. And if you know anybody else that we can be of service to, please direct them to Nicole or myself or the YouTube channel, whatever you feel would be most helpful.
Okay, I sure will. Thanks again.
Yeah, and please feel free to go and subscribe to our magazine and listen to our radio show. We have a lot of really wonderful articles that are coming out in October, I think, on autism, on anxiety, just a variety of wonderful articles in all our magazine, on all our magazine issues. So you can get those on the website. So you can open up the link and see the magazine. They're really well done, I think. So yeah,
I
hopefully
posted
you'll
a
enjoy
link,
it.
Angela, to the magazine and the radio show. I posted them on my page, but I'll post them again.
Okay.
And that way you can go on and kind of take a look and see what you like.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Sounds like a lot of just helpful information. So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ready to look through it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right.